Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Oak Tree Institute's special Ramadan webinar series, where we are unpacking some of the most difficult spiritual challenges activists, leaders, and organizers in our community face today. I'm your host, Muhammad Hassan, joining live from New Jersey on this cold Wednesday afternoon, just about an hour and a half until iftar, alhamdulillah. On this first episode of the series, we are unpacking spiritual burnout, al-futur, scholars call it, along with isolation and individualism, uh, uzla and tafarrud, and following desire, ittiba'u hawa. And how these three spiritual challenges show up in the way activists, leaders, and organizers manage their own lives and serve others. Today, we are honored to have with us our dear scholar and mentor, Dr. Asif Hirani, joining from the great state of Texas, from the heart of Dallas, as some call it, Dallas Sharif. Um, Dr. Asif, Jazakumullah khair for graciously taking the time to join us.
Well, again, walaikum assalam and jazakallah khairan for generosity and for all the things and initiatives you are doing.
Jazakallah khairan. Allah barik feek. Dr. Asif has a PhD in tafsir from Al Medina International University and a master's in Usuluddin. He is the author of multiple books and currently serves as a resident scholar at INT. He has spent the last decade developing tarbiyah curriculum and programming for activists and leaders in the Muslim community. For those joining us live, please feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the chat. We will dedicate some time, especially in the last 15 minutes, inshallah, to address them. Sheikh, I want to begin. You speak often about being a Sharia compliant activist, a Sharia compliant leader. What does that mean?
Okay. First of all, jazakallah khairan for asking this and having me in this conversation. So when I say Sharia compliant activist, it's especially in the last 2 centuries after colonization, we have seen this divide between traditionalist and activist, even though this is false created dichotomy. Traditionally speaking, we did never had this dichotomy. So some people go and they will try to conserve Islam by studying Islam or by taking different routes of tazkiyah to clean their heart. But then at the same time, they might have isolationist mindset. They won't be active in the society, actively engaging in the society. Because learning a tradition and then or going to a route to clean your heart requires a lot of effort. But then the absence in the society can lead to an isolationist mentality. That's one angle. And then the other aspect of this is that some people want to engage in the society. They say the world is moving too fast. We cannot leave the world to be led by those people who are deprived of divine message. We have to go. We have to be activists. But they might not be. Especially in last 200 years, we have seen some experience that nice intention doesn't necessarily compensate the knowledge and spirituality. So sometime they will engage in the society, but they might not be compliant to the Sharia in terms of the knowledge, or maybe spirituality is missing. And one of the things which is in most of the Islamic awakening work is the insufficient emphasis on the tazkiyah. That's you will going to see is getting very obvious. So both the groups or both the camps are doing something good. I think the need of the hour, like you guys are doing at Oak Tree and other institutes, mashallah, is that to bridge the gap so that we can still engage in the society, we can still be active in the society, and we have to apply, define activism in a holistic way, not in a philosophical way. Holistic prophetic activism, but in a Sharia compliant way, so that we can learn from the mistakes of the past, but not bogged down by that and not to hold by those mistakes, rather moving forward in a Sharia compliant way, focusing on knowledge and spirituality along with engaging in the society properly so we can positively integrate in the society.
Shaykhna, I think a lot of our audience here at Oak Tree are those who are listening. They are organizers in the community, board members of Masajid, staff at relief work. Some of them don't necessarily consider themselves activists, but obviously we're talking about when we say Sharia compliant activism, it sounds like to me you're really talking about anybody who's engaged in this work and da'wah and serving the community. And a lot of them would say, makes a lot of sense. I am Muslim and I try to uphold uh, my Islam in my work. But I think what you are alluding to is a little more deeper. I think you are really getting specific around what does it really mean to have that balance from in being a Sharia compliant activist. Can you speak to a little bit more about what is that balance between you use the word and tazkiyah?
I'll give you an example which might be relevant to Ramadan. So in Ramadan, a lot of emphasis that we have to spend time in masjid and we have to decorate our masajid, and we should. I'm the resident scholar for the masjid in Dallas, so we all should do this. Even as a father of three, I ask my kids to write Ramadan Mubarak and put in their room. So this is all important, Alhamdulillah. But that balance, I will highlight that. Let's look at the Ramadan of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ramadan becomes fasting in Ramadan becomes mandatory. The very next Ramadan comes, Rasulullah is not in Masjid Nabawi. The entire Ramadan is in Badr. Engagement. Next year, Shawwal, Uhud comes. It's in the beginning of Shawwal, the day of the Eid, when big nights, when we are spending nights in the masjid, thinking about our spirituality. I think in fifth or sixth of Shawwal, Uhud happened. Just giving you some priorities of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Khandak happens. Sheikh Wahbaz Wali says they start digging the trenches in Ramadan. Imagine, start digging the trenches in the month of Ramadan. Fath Makkah happened on 20th Ramadan. Qadisiyah happened at the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Persia, in Ramadan. Tariq bin Ziyad, Andalus, Ramadan. Ibn Taymiyyah, Battle of Shaqab, in Ramadan. They never said to their enemies, no, it's the month of Ramadan, we have to spend time in. When it's time for engagement, you engage in the society. Whatever. See, we don't believe in self-centric spirituality or de facto Christianization of spirituality or individualization of spirituality. We believe in Allah-centric spirituality. When Allah asks me to do something to engage, even if that comes at the expense of individual isolation as spirituality, I will do that. Last 10 days is the time to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there is no bigger priorities or action are required from me, then engage in that. But that's what I said. Unfortunately, we have very Christian monasticism inspired definition of a spirituality, and that is harming us. And that is not because of colonization only. Even before that, some of the Neoplatonic concepts from third century onwards, fourth century onwards, came into our philosophy books and Tazkiyah books. That is also making an impact of syncretism. But I just want to make it simple. So Sharia compliant activists is doing the work of activism in a balanced way. They are redefining the spirituality in a holistic way. You all are working in different organizations, might be fundraisers and meetings in the month of Ramadan that can create frustration. But if you think about Rasulullah is in Badr, Rasulullah is actually doing meetings with the Sahaba. Rasulullah is meeting with the in Fath Makkah. In the month of Ramadan, this actually gives us motivation that actually we are closer to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam than spending 30 days in the masjid without engaging in the society. I would really think that this is a way we can define our Sharia compliant activism, inshallah.
SubhanAllah. I think oftentimes when we think about ibadah, we're thinking about salah, we're thinking about reading Quran, and we don't think about the person who is potentially raising fund or is at the parking lot duty of the masjid. But they're also engaged in ibadah, SubhanAllah. Um, because this episode is focused on some of the spiritual challenges, I want to actually shift the conversation a little bit about to talking about when does it become too much? As an organizer, as a leader, as an activist, I know, alhamdulillah, I am closer to Rasulullah Sunnah and when month of Ramadan, I'm so busy serving the community, so busy doing the work of da'wah. But then it can lead to the burnout, al-futur. In fact, we know Rasulullah, he said every action has a period of enthusiasm, right? And that, and it's normal to have a decline as long as فَمَنْ كَانَتْ فِطْرَتُهُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي فَقَدْ اهْتَدَى, right? So as long as it is within the parameters. So, how do we understand this spiritual burnout, Futur? What is it, and what is it not?
Okay, first of all, it's very normal. All of us go through this. As you mentioned, Rasulullah himself affirms this concept, but he says in لكل عمل شرة ولكل شرة فترة, that every deed, every action will going to have a zeal or into peak of enthusiasm, and every zeal or every peak of enthusiasm will be followed by you can say this period of fatigue. So this is natural. We are human being. But then we have to put disqualifiers, priorities, what I can afford to miss, what I cannot afford to miss. Um, because we have to understand, let's start with Rasulullah himself says, most beloved actions to Allah are those which are consistent, even if they are less. Let's start with that, inshallah. What is a spiritual burnout? I was reading this hadith recently. This is mentioned in Musnad Ahmad. This defines the spiritual burnout, especially in the month of Ramadan for us, in a beautiful way. Rasulullah says in this hadith that in hazadin mateen, this religion is strong, this religion is vast, this religion is solid. فأوغل فيه برفق. So go into this religion gently. Don't push it too hard. Don't penetrate too hard. This religion is strong, but you have to go in it gently. ولا تبغض إلى نفسك عبادة الله. And do not make worship or ibadah of Allah burdensome on yourself by going too by going gently. You will going to make sure that you won't make worship of Allah burdensome on yourself. And then he says this, which defines spiritual burnout. He says, فَإِنَّ الْمُنْبِطَ لَا أَرْضًا قَطْ وَلَا ظَهْرًا أَبْقَى. He says, for indeed the one who overexerts himself or overexerts herself neither covers any ground nor spares his mount alive. Mount here means yourself. Your horse is here is yourself. So if you will overwork in the ibadah, travel day and night, your horse doesn't have a time to rest. Eventually, your horse will going to die or burn out. And since you are riding to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the concept of spirituality. You're riding to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You just make sure that you don't override yourself to the point that sometimes your horse can become rebellious. Sometimes your horse can become resentful if you will do this with your horse. So for a hasty traveler toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you want to cover distance, you go slow, you go gently. And this is the idea which we have, is that Masajid will going to invite you to all the programs, fundraisers, your own institutions, Tazkiyah programs. But remember, um, if you can find everything, but if you did not find Allah, then we did not get a point of Ramadan. So even if we are attending 10% of the programs, but if we are focusing on getting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our life first and foremost, I think this should be our target. One of the you might think I'm going in a Sufi mode at this point, but I'll just share an example. I think Ibn Qayyim mentions this. I don't know where, but most likely Madarij Salikin, that a person asks a sheikh that sheikh, I am looking for sweetness in the prayer. How can I find the sweetness? So he says, you will never able to find sweetness if you're looking for sweetness. He said, what does it mean? He said, the reason why you're not able to find sweetness is because you're looking at sweetness. If you're looking at Allah, then you'll find Allah and then you'll find sweetness. So don't have this transactional relationship. Whatever you can do, inshallah, and then have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, if you go too hard, 20 rakat tarawih, then tahajjud, then you have to finish this number of Quran, and then eventually you know that you have taken too much on your load, and eventually after 5 6 days you will feel burnout, and your nafs, your ego will going to become or your nafs, I would say is a better translation, your heart will become too rebellious to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is very deadly state. So avoid spiritual burnout.
SubhanAllah, you can floor your gas only so much, right? Until your car runs out of juice. Whether your team, whether your family, your health, there is a natural a balance there. SubhanAllah, one thing I hear as we work with leaders and activists in the community and many organizations, institutions, is that some would share that they used to feel motivated about Islamic work. They used to feel motivated about serving the community. Now it's a chore. They just it feels like a chore. They don't feel as connected. They don't feel that they get rejuvenated by this work. They've been sitting in a masjid board for 10 years, 15 years. They don't feel they have gotten closer to Allah in the process. Um, what are the early warning signs that, you know what, I am getting spiritually burnt out, and um, this is not helping me?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every Tazkiyah scholar have their own different route. For me, what I have learned from different mashayikh is that dispersion. There is a concept in Tazkiyah where your heart, your soul, your body, your mind, they all need to be united. There have to be a wahda, let's say tawheed of inside. If there is a tafraqa, if there is a dispersion, my heart is somewhere, my mind is somewhere, my body is somewhere, my soul is somewhere, this is a worse punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from a spiritual perspective, according to Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, that you are praying salah, but your mind is somewhere else, and your heart is somewhere else, your body is in front of Allah, your soul is somewhere else, and there is a dispersion. So this is a sign. And if it happened consistently, it's a reminder that you need a break. Um, and I usually, one of the Imam WhatsApp group, I was actually talking. I said that if you realize that I don't feel giving Jummah khutbah, I don't feel spiritual leading the prayer, then even if you cannot afford, take a break, because otherwise it will be too costly. And if, God forbid, if any symptoms will come out of this disease, then it will be too deadly. So take a break. So everyone have to recognize when it's too much, and they need a break. So Rasulullah, out of his compassion, did not come out to pray Salat Tarawih after the third day, out of the fear that we were going to consider this as fard. I'm not demonizing those brothers and sisters who praise Tarawih. MashaAllah, Wallah, you are doing amazing job, MashaAllah. But if you feel a spiritual burnout, take a day off, gather your energy back, and then come back, inshallah.
And subhanAllah, sometimes the spiritual burnout is to the point that I have known organizers, leaders, activists in the Muslim community who left the Muslim space because, or they obviously changed organization or they went to someone else. They said, this is not serving me. And oftentimes, Shekna, what happens is, what I have seen is that there's a conflation between spiritual burnout, physical burnout, emotional burnout, intellectual burnout. Sometimes physical, or they have financial issues, and sometimes people, because they haven't really even did the hard work that they need to do, they drive sort of even more further into activism, thinking that will fix the core issue that they have, and it doesn't go anywhere. Um, what are your thoughts on how do you kind of continuously check yourself to make sure that you're connected to the work, and then you're maintaining a baseline sort of spirituality that protects you on a daily basis?
Yeah, there are a few constants and few variables. Constants are that I would say for every activist, apart from 5 times salawat, have a habit, if not repeat, if you are not doing consistently at least once a week praying tahajjud, outside of Ramadan, obviously. Try this is because you're doing something an extra work, which my majority of the Muslims are not doing. You're doing Islamic work, so you need to have this habit of connecting to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Secondly, try to ask the dua, the zikr and askar in the morning and in the evening. This is one problem I have seen, and you will tell me because you deal with activists so much. I'm surrounded with the masjid crowd sometimes. I have seen that, Alhamdulillah, in terms of professionalism, Muslim community, Muslim activists in America are incredible, mashallah. But in terms of the spirituality and taking care of the dua and morning and evening askar, I have not find them to let's say suboptimal is the right word. So this is something which we need to abide by for taking care of our heart and seeking protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Um, and then I know immediately if you are speaking, like few activists were saying that if you are speaking immediately, you have to do a fundraiser after 4 rakat tarawih. So the 4 rakat tarawih, you're thinking consistently about the talking points. This can happen. This can happen. But try along with trying to minimize that. If you can focus on the dua immediately after salah, you don't have to leave the masjid or don't have to engage the conversation unless it's a requirement of the organization, then you have to give priority. But dua in your own language, connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think showing him the humility and brokenness, this is something, and this can be done in your own style. So this is a circumstantial variables I'm saying. But that have to come because otherwise the relationship will become very transactional and eventually intention will going to change. We are living in such a society, such a materialistic society. We all are on the conveyor belt of life. It's very easy to that our intention will be changed and we don't even realize what's happening with our heart. So take care of consistent things. Come up with the circumstantial variables, whatever it is for you. Try to diversify. Like Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, that who among you have fasted today outside of Ramadan? Who among you today have prayed Salatul Janazah? Who among you today have visited the sick? And Abu Bakr consistently raised the hand. And Rasulullah says, actually, this is Abu Bakr can enter from Jannah whichever gates he wants. I was thinking about this. I was saying that Rasulullah did not ask, okay, who have finished Seal Nectar, who have finished Ibn Kathir, because Abu Bakr Siddiq, as knowledgeable as he is in the Ummah, he's diversified his 401k portfolio. So that eventually I can enter Jannah from whichever gate I want. And this helps in righteousness that you will bring creativity in your good deeds. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So diversify in your good deeds as well. Sometimes curb your ego, give from your psychological reserve to the brothers and sisters who are seeking help, give them shoulder to lean on. You will feel that I've helped today, even though that's not my primary job in Islamic work. But I think that will melt your heart also.
SubhanAllah, I love that diversifying your portfolio. Because SubhanAllah, as we know that each and every one of us have a different leaning, right? The way Allah has hardwired us, that the certain ibadah feels more challenging for us, and some of them naturally fits with the way we are. Of course, we should challenge ourselves. So what I'm hearing, Sheikhna, is really the importance of the private worship, importance of having small habits, and reconnecting with the purpose. I think, subhanAllah, one of the things that I tell leaders of different organizations all the time is that they say, we are a relief organization. We are a Islamic education institute. Of course, everyone is motivated. Of course, everyone knows we're doing this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's not just enough to have it in your mission and vision. Sometimes you have to remind people of that, or have intentional activities and mechanism by which people are reminded of the mission and the purpose. Right? People need reminders, right?
Absolutely.
And I think often
Absolutely.
leaders often overlook that.
Absolutely. No, I have seen the same issue that when you're working for Islamic organization, the by default understanding of spirituality will come. No, you are working from an administrative perspective. You need to compensate the deficiency of spirituality. And this goes even for the imams, and this goes even for the khatib. If you're preparing for the khutbah to deliver in the best possible way so that masses will get benefit, not necessarily it will going to give you spiritual benefit because your entire focus is on delivery. Similarly, parking, similarly, presidency, similarly, board members, similarly, fundraisers, whatever your capacity you're working with, you need to compensate along with the administration doing with ihsan, but you need to compensate the spiritual aspect by whatever means you can, inshallah. But there's no one particular method, but you have to pay attention. Otherwise, you'll feel spiritual gas is running out.
Allah. Uh, I want to go to another extreme. Some, because they feel burnout, they almost go to this isolation mode, right? We have seen great activists and great leaders just exit, like, and as I was referring to, disappear and no longer want to be engaged and involved. And they say that I need to kind of seclude myself, or and is it how do we distinguish the seclusion that that's praiseworthy, and that which is blameworthy?
Yeah, well, it's a big topic, a very big topic. And before I can give you, because I, if I have to give you my own inclination without giving the justice between the scholar disagreement, then I won't be fair with the heritage and tradition. The best book I found actually is by Sheikh Salman al-Auda, radiyallahu anh, Al-Khulta wal-Uzla fil Islam. So we need to have a balanced understanding. Sometime to take a break to gather your thoughts is actually recommended. Sometimes it becomes wajib because you know that I'm harming the community. You take a break, you gather your thoughts, and then you become more spiritual so that you have the gas so that you can give it to others. But how long this should be? And that's where the problem is. People give the example of Ghazali, rahimahullah, that he took 10-year break and then he came back. Habibana, he came back and he destroyed the philosophers. The problem is once you go following Ghazali, you are never coming back. And then you are never engaging like Ghazali did. We have this preconceived notion about going in spirituality. Yes, take small breaks for spirituality. It will help, but then don't forget this. I personally like this quote of Dr. Muhammad Iqbal in his book Reconstruction of Islamic Thought. He said that the difference between a prophet and a mystic, a Sufi. When he's saying Sufi, he's saying talking about non-Sharia compliant because he himself was a Sufi. He says the difference between a prophet and a mystic Sufi is that when a prophet went to meet Allah in Mi'raj and in Hira, he met and he came back with the message and he impacted positively in the society. But the mystic, whenever he observes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wants to annihilate himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he never wants to come back to make an impact. And this is the difference which we need to highlight. You are going back, but your main target is take the motivation and then coming back and make an impact. That's the prophetic tasawwuf. That's a prophetic tazkiyah. That's a prophetic activism. Otherwise, you are very self-centric in your spirituality. And furthermore, you are actually serving the chief enemy, what he wants from all of us to isolate us so that we leave the world for them to run.
So, Sheikh, now I want to ask you something personal. You yourself took a bit of a sabbatical early this year. Tell me more about that. It's you took out time to be out of the country and focus on some studies. I'd love to hear what was your thought going into your sabbatical.
Wallahi, it might we might have to take a tangent, but you know this we have been discussing. I took actually mentorship from you also, mashallah. So I had multiple goals. I took my first sabbatical almost 7, 8 years ago, and I realized how beautiful it is being an imam because I was not growing spiritually, academically. And Sheikh Hatim was the first one who suggested me that you should take a break. And I realized that this is so needed at that time, 7, 8 years ago. And I made a promise to myself and my family because there are so many things as an imam, as a resident scholar. Every job have different challenges. We don't have any private life. When you go to the masjid, you are going for spirituality. We are going in our job. So it's two different angles. Then no growth. You're consistently giving people's expectation of you, Sheikhul Islam, Mufti Diyar, and then slowly and gradually you start believing in them, and then you become complacent. And then haters are coming. They are trying to stop you also. So you need a break from this environment where you can go out and even ideologically you can grow. You can challenge your positions by checking with your mashayikh and your scholars. And at the same time, the biggest benefit is that you have to go back for spirituality. Um, See, in the sequence, Badr comes second and Cave of Hira comes first. This is summary of one of the poet of India, Akbar. He says, Allah have a wisdom we cannot even imagine. Before you can win the battle of outside in Badr, you have to win the battle of inside in the Cave of Hira. That's something which is important I got from sabbatical, that you need to have Allah in your life before you can give Allah to the people outside. Because otherwise, Mimbar, Friday speeches, Khatara will look very fake, will look very fake. Even the tears, I was just joking that, many a times Hafiz is crying in Taraweeh and Fajr and Maghrib. I was telling them that make sure the tears are coming in Zohar and Asr also. Because Allah is also listening to you. You are also reciting Quran at that time. But everything will look fake. Everything will look fake. So I think it's very natural for you to take a break from public life, to go so that you can regain your spirituality. So I think the biggest benefit for me out of to take sabbatical, yes, research everything, but to take a spiritual break.
SubhanAllah. It is exhausting and it takes a lot on you if you're serving, you're leading the community. So sabbatical is aside, Sheikhna, how do we do this on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis? I'm listening to this, and I am running a Muslim organization. I am in a board that has hours of meetings every week, and I have my full-time job, or this is my full-time job. How do I have this sort of this praiseworthy isolation on a more consistent small doses basis for myself?
Means I can tell you, if you can afford waking up early, just minutes before Fajr, pray Tahajjud, 2 rakah, no rocket science, just 2 rakah. Even the smallest possible surah, whatever you have memorized, it big, mashallah, nurun ala nur, and then talk to Allah. Whether you want to call it muraqabah, conversation, soft conversation, whatever you want to call it, just don't go into that controversy of tasawwuf tazkiyah. Talk to Allah. Ask Allah that Allah make my day, bless my day. Whatever I'm trying to do, I'm doing it for your sake. And then the moment after 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you realize that I am not able to do this. I'm not able to focus on spirituality. I'm not able to focus on the purpose of the work. Then take a break, a small break, big break, but consistently every single day. If not every single day is possible, then maybe twice a week, thrice a week, whatever you can do, once a week. Try to accommodate this particular hour or 2 hour at night is for me and Allah. No one else will know. Not even your wife, not even your husband. Many times you share everything with wife and husband. At least keep something between you and Allah, so that your wife and your husband and your kids won't know this is between you and Allah. Don't even tell them these special dua which you are asking. Let's keep between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that there is a secret between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you imagine the beauty where you are holding a secret between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I would say if you can take out that time, not every day, then once in a week, I think that will going to bring a lot of spiritual benefits, inshallah. And then see the symptoms throughout the day. If you text message and if you realize this was not needed, I maybe have backbited, gossiped, I maybe have tarnished your reputation. I made an emoji which I should not made an emoji. I'm not saying go into the overthinking syndrome mode, but I'm saying at night time when you are sleeping, you can do muhasaba. You can think about yourself and you can say that these were the symptoms of lack of spirituality. I will make sure I won't do this again. I think this will going to help you a lot, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah, I do want to get to ittiba hawa because that's a very, very big topic. But I want to wrap this up, the discussion on isolation, by another sort of a parallel issue, which is actually tafarrud, right? Which is that individualism that's really at the core of our society, and that shows up in leadership, right? I mean, what I have seen with individuals, because we're often told if you want to get something done, just do it yourself, and you got to be that leader that, and sort of balancing that and at the same time having shura, right? Because we have a lot of single track minded leaders in our community.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
really believe that only way to get things done is to ignore all the shura and like, I just gotta do it. Because that's the culture of entrepreneurship and leadership, and is often sold that way. And that's why people end up opening up their own organizations because they want to be the only ones saying things, and they want to just hire people who just says yes. Any thoughts on that, Sheikh? I'm sure we can unpack this for next 2 hours, but any immediate thoughts?
Yeah, means we should stay in synthesis mode. If thesis or antithesis will take us to the extremes. If we were going to go into extreme individualism, that's wrong. If you go into the extreme communism, that's wrong. Because Islam is all about Islam. Whenever you put ism, that just disfigures Islam. Islam is all about Islam. Coming back to this, I was thinking when you were saying about shura versus individualism, that Musa alayhi salam was given the task go to Fir'aun. I was editing my notes. The very first thing when he asked the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Haruna akhi wa afsah minni lisanan fa arsilhu ma'i yusaddiquni inni akhafu an yukadhibun. He says, my brother Harun. He is more eloquent than me. Give his assistance to me because I'm afraid that they were going to deny me. And then multiple wordings of this dua are mentioned in different places. The point is, Musa immediately realized the importance of teamwork, that giving message to the biggest tyrant oppressor alone is not possible. If we have to do something for the ummah, as big as helping the ummah, you cannot even move furniture of your house alone. You need help. um, and that zeal will going to end if you try to do everything by yourself. So you need help. If you are better than Rasulullah, then try. But Rasulullah also needed Sahaba. He is making dua. Allahumma azza al-Islam bi ahab ar-rajulayn ilayk Umar ibn al-Khattab, Jahl ibn Hisham. He's asking dua for Umar ibn al-Khattab. So you need, but at the same time, I am not asking you to overcompensate. When the team members will join you, it should not serve as a diffusion of psychology that okay, now they will going to work, and no, you should show the same amount of leading from the front, but at the same time, that team is going to help you eventually to accomplish your goals. So there have to be a synthesis route, that individual fire in the heart should be there, that you are having sleepless night because of the projects which is very close to your heart is not achieved, but at the same time, you know that this is not individual, this is not you or your name. Entire ummah have to come together to achieve this target. This balance have to be there for our, even for our spiritual well-being.
SubhanAllah. Um, I think one of the things that when we work with a lot of the leaders and activists in our community, what I've found, especially those who are on the top, those who have more in the higher up in the leadership, or activists that are much more well known, number of people giving them advice reduces significantly. Because a lot of people don't even feel that they should be giving you advice, right? And that individualism further solidifies because now they're on top, and a lot of yes men and yes women around them, and that becomes a very detrimental issue for a lot of leaders who are, especially who are higher up in the leadership.
I completely agree. I have seen in my own career the examples of what you are exactly talking about. And the collapse will happen overnight. You would disregard the symptoms, you'll disregard the mentorship, you'll disregard the advice, and maybe you'll become too big, bigger than your mentor, as you said. And then eventually accidents will happen. Actually, the accidents I have seen in last 20 years in American Muslim community, most of them were disconnected with mentorship. Um, that people are advising them and they're not taking advice, and then eventually different kinds of accidents, not one particular accident. But yeah, so taking advice, taking shura, you are not better than Sahaba, you're not better than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No matter what you are doing, just make sure you are taking advice. And stay connected with the jama'ah. And I'm not saying al jama'ah, stay connected with the group of people. Whatever group of people you will gathering who are going to keep checks and balance, who will do muhasabah. I usually say this, this advice of Ghazali helped me a lot. Uqsimu billah, Sheikh Hassan, this advice helped me a lot. He said, focus on four things. You need to have a mentor, Sheikhun Basir. You need to have someone who can advise you. Second is ask your sincere friends who can keep an eye on you. If you go derail in any of the program, speech, whatever, they can advise you that you are joking too much with sisters today. You need to be careful. Third is check your enemies, what they're criticizing. Maybe their style is wrong, but maybe sometimes their content, their points are right. And wallahi, this is very difficult because we have so big ego. Okay. Fourth is observe people and learn from their mistakes so that you don't repeat those mistakes. I think this helped me a lot. This is Imam Ghazali in Ihya in the first volume. But I think if we can apply this, we can save ourselves from disasters.
SubhanAllah. One of the exercises, Sheikh, we do in some of the coaching work I do at Oak Tree with some of our leaders and activists. It's called 360 feedback. And I actually ask some of our imams and leaders and executive directors that I work with, for the next few weeks, I want you to go and collect feedback. What are my challenges? What are my strengths from people who are
Mm.
sort of your mentors, your peers, your family? Just collect it all together and let's discuss it. You'd be surprised how many folks come back and say, I have never done something like this. Like, and I actually ask sincerely, like, what are the my challenges, what are my strengths, and subhanallah. But it's so critical for leaders, those are running organizations, to create that advisory around them. It's not just the board and the formal advisory. I really mean, group of people that's going to hold you accountable, and group of people that you constantly check in with. It's so critical, as you're saying.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, this is a good idea. I did not have this glorified term 360, but I like this concept to ask these sincere people in your life about your strength and weakness because they're seeing you from different angles. So
Mm,
that's a, inshallah, I'll try to apply this, inshallah.
inshallah. I want to get to the last and probably the bigger topic here, but our time is limited. Uh, this falling desires, اتباع الهوى, and we have seen the scandals in the community, subhanallah, with some of our leaders, with some of our imams, Quran teachers, without naming names. First of all, Shaykhna, what is hawa from Islam perspective? What is desires?
It's an opposite of Huda. If you
Subhanallah.
want to, so Huda is whatever Allah and His Messenger is guiding your feeling, and in the lack of divine guidance, you will going to your ego will fill the void, and then eventually you will going to do as you like to fulfill your feelings, and that is hawa. And for some people, especially in the environment we are living in, it's so conducive to worship our own feelings. So that's why Allah says this twice. Whenever Allah says something twice, it means that it's extra important. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى.
Mm,
Have you seen a person who have taken his hawa as his Lord, hawa as his Rabb? Some people worship their feelings. But hawa can be more than the English word feeling. Hawa can be whims, hawa can be desires, hawa can be our prejudices. Um, so that's one way of looking at this. And Uqsimu billah, Ramadan is the best time to control your hawa and bring Sharia compliance in your hawa. Because in Ramadan, you are consistently working on your feelings. You are hungry, you are reminding yourself, no, not until Maghrib. You are thirsty, no, not until Maghrib. At night, you are sleeping, but you are saying no. No to sleep, no to hunger, no to thirst, because you are reminding your feeling you are not important. Allah is important. And this Ramadan month will going to get over. Ramadan is transient, it will go like a blink of an eye. But this feeling should sustain that Allah is more important than my feeling. You know how many, I mean, you have a psych degree, right? If I'm not mistaken, about the idea of instant gratification and how people are
mm, mm,
monetizing, that you have to do immediately now what you think and how do you feel. And people are monetizing to skip ad, give us more on YouTube.
mm.
Even unfortunately, the porn industry and all those things have increased. This is all the result of immediate or instant gratification. Ramadan is the best time to work on instant gratification problem. That you can, instead of having a delayed gratification, you have an Allah-centric gratification. You are delaying whatever Allah is asking you to delay. You are immediately breaking your fast because Allah is asking you to break the fast. So it will going to bring more discipline. So I think this is a huge topic, but I just wanted to summarize that if you were going to follow Hawa, you were going to immediately realize that you are getting empty. And the problem, as you mentioned in the beginning, I'll use conservative language. Last night we were reciting Surah Al-Araf. In the end of Surah Al-Araf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned one of the scholar, not a scholar, I would say one of the person of the knowledge. The person of the knowledge, Allah gave his example as Kamasalil Kalb. The person, we gave him a knowledge, but his example is like the example of the dog. And why? Because of Hawa also. So it's not that the scholars or the people of the knowledge are exempted from this. We all can come into the trap of this. We need to be very careful. And we need to put proper protocols so that eventually, because the higher your level is in Islamic organization, whether administrative leadership or religious leadership, if you will fall, many people will have crisis of faith. So you will have an extra responsibility to make sure that you don't do this so that eventually people won't end up in the crisis of faith.
SubhanAllah. we have seen leaders and teachers, unfortunately, have these dripped into a scandal, and I'm sure a lot of people unpacked all sorts of things about that. But I want to focus on it. It happens all of a sudden, and you get the news, and you hear the news, and it's a big, it makes a round across our community. But there's something that's happening gradually before it happened publicly, right? Before someone has a public fail or public fall, there were symptoms already in their private life. Um, Shagna, if you can just share with us, how would someone know that they might be having some red flags personally for them and the close friends and family around them that this person's headed in the wrong direction and really their falling of the desire is taking over and this is leading them in a potentially very dangerous path.
Yeah. Wallahi, I don't know where to start this, subhanallah. Um, but if you're talking about once if you become active in Islamic organization, and let's say I'm talking about myself, so let's say imam, resident scholar, khatib, um, if you are thinking about how to grab attention of sister audience, wallahi, you are on a wrong path. Wallahi, if you're looking at algorithm after posting something on Facebook, how many young sisters is liking my post? Wallahi, this is very dangerous path. You are this is symptoms, and if you will ignore these symptoms, it is going to become big problem for you in future. I'm not saying don't look at all these algorithms from marketing perspective. I'm saying for your individual perspective. And I'm not saying don't make a talk conducive to the sisters. What I'm saying, I think it's very clear that um, if you are giving a talk, it's imbalanced just because you want to please one audience versus the other audience. So these are the signs. Similarly, financial, not only gender interaction, financial. If you're not financially transparent, if people are giving you donation and you are putting in your account, and then there's no checks and balance, that can also these are red flags. You should have strict protocol. Don't wait for accidents to happen. Third, if any accident happens in the community, that should give goosebumps to you. That what if I was like that? Again the same advice of Ghazali. And try to have extra protocols for you after learning that this individual committed this because he did not follow this protocol. So I'll make sure I won't do this. And do not take for granted the particulars, juziyat, particular of our religion. So if Islam have put certain restrictions about gender interactions, then do not take those for granted and do not think you are exempted from it. You have to apply as an imam, as a leader on first and foremost. I was talking to Sheikh Hatim last week about something, and he said that uh, one of the advice which he gives to all the young imams who are starting their career is that please just don't do two things. Be very careful in the way you are dealing with money, and be very careful in the way you are dealing with the sisters in the community, because your downfall will going to become crisis of faith for many others. So be very careful, be responsible when you are interacting, and we have seen this every now and then. I would say this topic is huge, but don't ignore the symptoms. When you're preparing the khutbah and you're thinking about today, I'm actually speaking to a sister-only audience, so you're feeling more motivated. You have to ask yourself, I am giving this talk for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why this shaitan is playing with my heart? So I need to recalibrate this entire spirituality.
SubhanAllah, Shaykh. I know you're speaking from the perspective of those activists who are in ilmi activists, you could call them, right? Those are teaching and preaching. This is also so relevant to those who are in other spaces, right? You look at your motivation in a meeting, why you want to take up a certain position, why you want to stick to your decision. It shows up in many different ways. Like, how do you distinguish, even in the small ways, every day that I'm organizing, I am leading an organization, I am serving as a staff. How do I know my decisions are coming from truly because I believe they're accurate, they're right, or there's some element of hawa in it, the element of really it's not coming from a great place.
Like we just need to be little skeptic about the quick decisions which we are making. And we need to say, is it really coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it my own inclination of hawa, or my own biases, or my own prejudice, or my own feelings towards this or that individual? I think this is very important. Always consider your nafs between yourself and truth. Always consider yourself between yourself and the truth. That maybe this is my hawa guiding my decision right now. I'm not reaching to the truth, but I'm perceiving I'm reaching the truth because, and then you will argue that I would no, no, this is the best decision because you were going to bring up the evidences. But maybe you are wrong. So it's good to be skeptical because right now you are skeptical about every other thing except yourself. So, think about be retrospective, and then stay cautious. When Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is reminding that the biggest trial he is leaving for the men of the ummah is the temptation of women. He's not demonizing the women, astaghfirullah. He's actually showing the vulnerability of the men, weakness of the men, that you are so weak that you will be tested and tempted by this. So just make sure you don't do those mistakes. Make sure you don't fall into those mistakes. So when Rasulullah is using such a scary language, الضر من النساء, the biggest harm in terms of temptation. How can you be so casual? And again, this is we are going only towards the gender interaction, but anyway, checking whether your decisions are coming from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala requires a lot of spirituality, a lot of thought process. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. I know we are getting close to our end. For folks who are joining us live, feel free to put in any questions or thoughts on the chat. We'll try to take them in the few minutes that we have. Um, Sheikhna, one thing I have seen is that definitely when a leader, activist, organizer, manager is lacking balance in their life, their health, their family, it becomes even more easy to fall into temptation, right? Because it can definitely get exasperated. And sometimes there are actually physical issues, right? People have addiction or other trauma that they haven't really dealt with, and they come to Islamic work and they bring that with them. And all of a sudden, because now they're religious and they're in religious spaces, they sort of think that I don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm good. Like that covers it up for a while, but in the dark corners of their home, in the dark corners of their dark spaces, they that thing shows up, right? Especially when they're stressed, especially when they get challenged, especially when they're facing public criticism. That starts to really show up. As you know, as very well known in addiction psychology. Um, what advice do you have for leaders, for activists, to have that accountability for themselves?
Yeah, wallahi, this is naturally now we are going to connect this. Both of these things are connected, as you said. Family life, because unhealthy family life can lead to this, and these accidents will happen. I would say that whatever you are doing, don't never ignore the family. Even teaching, you will be surprised. That whatever classes we had, I made sure, and me and my wife, that my kids, Fatma and Heban, even if they are young, they were going to attend all the classes with me. They will come in every Jummah khutbah wherever I'm going in Dallas, and if it's to drivable distance. The first sabbatical you talk about sabbatical. The first sabbatical I took almost 7 8 years ago. I spoke with Sheikh Hatem. I said, Sheikh Hatem, should I take my family? I was going for 3 months, or should I go by myself? He says, no, please take your family. And then not because family will also take benefit, they eventually took benefit, but this is very important. You cannot ignore the family, especially you are leaders of the community, and people see you from different perspective, and you have a responsibility, and people will going to come to you to ask questions to you, and you are at a powerful position. You are at a very attractive position. So if you do not keep your family with you in the masjid as an imam at Salatul Isha, Salatul Maghrib, your kids with you, then accidents can happen. So keep your family with you almost all the time. People should actually remember that this imam is a very good family oriented man. This is how people should remember. So yeah, but unfortunately, some people have exceptions, and may Allah make it easy for them.
Bismillah, that is a you brought us something, and in the last minute or two that we have, um, as a leader, as activist, how do I, embody that in my home, right? So that you talked about, having your kids involved. So those listening here, oftentimes I hear this from many board members, organizers, that their own children have a very much disdain and dislike for the Islamic work that they do. Like I can't tell you the number of people who are involved in masajid, belief work, Muslim institutions, that their own kids in their homes, they have a complete dislike for Islam organization. And the part reason why I shared is actually very interesting is because some of them are coming home and talking about all the things that are messy in politics and the board and so forth. But they're engaging again the next day. What their kids don't understand is like, why would my dad and my mom keep on going there if they're so bad? And they have this, and the kids are developing this terrible perception of Muslim
Yeah.
institutions, Muslim organization. Any advice, like, as we wrap up here? How do we
Yeah.
model, of course, self-discipline with our children? How do we raise them to love the Muslim institutions,
Yeah.
and how do we balance that frustration with, getting our children motivated for the work as well?
Yeah, I would say first, it starts reading something with them, even for 5 minutes. Even for 5 minutes. Your 6-year-old, 10-year-old, 14-year-old, you all should have a family time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes every single day. When drinking chai, whatever, you should study something together, read half a page, and then reflect. Uh, Make this habit in whatever language. Second, um, and this is important. I will tell you something funny. I'm in Dallas, right? You just said. In Dallas, we have great speakers, Sheikh Omar Suleiman, Sheikh Yasser Qadi, all these, mashallah. And all of them are my colleagues, by the way. My kids text them all the time that we have a Sira question from your Sira series, Sheikh Yasser. They take my phone and they will send a WhatsApp message. Okay. A few days ago, I did not have Jummah khutbah. I usually keep two Jummah khutbah and two open for listening. So I told my Fatima and Hebban that today, do you want to go to the same masjid, INT, or do you want to go to some other masjid? They said, no, we want to go to that masjid, this very small masjid. I said, why that small masjid? I said, you must have said, okay, Sheikh Omar, Sheikh Yasser, but that is small masjid. They said, because Sheikh Lacy is giving a khutbah. Now, Sheikh Lacy is not even a sheikh. He is a computer engineer. He tells a story and he would give ice cream to the kids. And in our home, whether it's Sheikh Omar or Sheikh Yasser or Brother Lacy, we call everyone Sheikh. We call everyone Ustad or Ustada to give same amount of respect. And we don't backbite any speaker that today Khatra was very long. He should have finished very early. Today recitation was horrible. Fundraisers are happening. Astaghfirullah. No, even if I want to discuss with my wife, we'll close the door because I have seen the outcome when parents have this discussion in front of the kids will have a growing resentment towards the institution, as you were saying. My kids, when they will go to Sheikh Lacy, brother Sheikh Lacy, they will say him Sheikh Lacy and Sheikh Omar and Sheikh Yasser. And similarly for institutions, it doesn't matter to them whether it's INT or APIC or VRIC, even though some of the masajids in America are competitive. But for them, if you raise them in that environment, all of these are our houses. So they don't see that difference. Ikna, mass, we pray everywhere and we don't have that competition. So I think parents have to do a lot. When you bring the frustration, you will resolve that frustration or you're going to go on with your life, but your kids will going to carry that. So I think parents, if we can do something to make sure that kids are not impacted with this toxicity, I think this will be a great job, inshallah, as a parents.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. Any final words, as we close?
No, you advise me because I'm speaking for last 40, 50 minutes, inshallah. You advise me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for all the work you are doing.